system, and then we can cap the number. How does that? If I were the executive, I would not just say a committee has made recommendations and so I'm going to just, I would also make some engagements. Devolution Commission, I'd like to make some engagements before I now say this is, we are going with this. So
right. And we did
also
engage
fair.
The executive. I mean,
so if you are watching these pictures, don't be confused. This was President Akufo-Addo receiving through Chairman Sabonso, whose ministry set up the Clydeberry Committee, the Constitution Review Consultative Committee. That also presented its report. And remember, the President Akufo-Addo handed that report to President Mahama. Sure. And together with the Fiajo 1,000-page committee work, commission work, that was also attended to.
Ours will be smaller.
Are you thinking about how the process eventually would terminate? And are you willing to accept, as the President has given an indication, to be part of the implementation committee?
Sure. I mean, yes, we definitely took on board. I mean, we were very concerned not to see the process hit a roadblock, the same roadblock that 2011 hit. Because people talk about 2011 as though the only reason why it remained on the shelf was political will. No, there was a technical problem, right? How do you process within our amendment framework in the Constitution, how do you process more than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 changes to entrenched clauses?
There were in excess of 40 amendments to the entrenched clauses.
So if you want to amend the entrenched clauses, you go to a referendum, gather at the minimum 40% of voters to show up, and of those showing up, 75% must vote to approve.
Yeah.
And this is where the technical hitch comes. You cannot put together multiple questions and ask for one yes or no answer. So if you say, I want to abolish the death penalty and I want to put a cap on the number of ministers, these are totally unrelated issues. You can't couple them and say to voters, do you approve? What are they approving? So it got to a point where there was a technical hitch. You had to separate out the various provisions for amendment. Right?
I always wondered what my ballot paper.
That's why some people say a new constitution rots. That solves all of this.
Yeah, but how do you, with the amendment framework? And I think what we have proposed gets us close to that, right? So we had a lot of worry about it. It's like, I mean, at some point we said, well, it's not our job. But then we also reckon that we don't want to have wasted our time. So let's find it. And this is what we came up with, right? That when you look at the Constitution's amendment provisions, there are so many of them. Right? Some whole chapters are entrenched.
Yes.
And you ask yourself, was it really the intention to entrench the entire executive chapter, including NDPC and everything? Or are there some sacred cows that we think no regime, no party should just be able to come and single-handedly change? So clearly, term limits, we said, well, it appears that Ghanaians take term limits to be sacrosanct.
Yeah.
We want to entrench term limits. But we want to be free to figure out if we want ministers from parliament or not parliament. How significant is that we want to entrench?
You take a breather, we'll return, and that's an innovation they are bringing on the amendment chapter, how to amend the Constitution, even introducing a popular approach to amending the Constitution. And you've been listening to Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh, Chairman, Constitution Review Committee, and Charlotte Osei, who is a member of the Constitution Review Committee. I'm taking a quick break. When we return, they are still here, and they're going to take your questions. Some of your questions will be filtered through Victoria Bright, international corporate lawyer and entrepreneur, Oliver Barker-Vormawo, constitutional rights and policy strategy advisor, Democracy Hub. And remember, Oliver is important in this discussion because he was one of those doing the heavy lifting job as far as the Constitution Review Commission's work, Professor Fiajo's work was concerned. Professor Bafwa Jumandia is former UN Senior Governance Advisor. Inus Afuseni is former MP, Tamale Central, and former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. Nana Ajay Bafwa He's been reading the document and he's coming with his view, having reviewed it. He's Vice Chair, Subsidiary Legislation Committee and member Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament. You'd have seen him in those pictures also engaging with the Constitution Review Committee. I'm Samson Ladia. If you are just joining us, we have an exclusive today. So we started the show at 8 a.m. Now we will continue from here. We'll be right back.
For decades, we have helped businesses connect with their trade partners all over the globe. From Ghana to Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, Benin, Togo, Senegal, China, Morocco, France, Netherlands, and many other countries. We have made it possible to bring Ghana to the world. We have brought small and medium businesses closer to their customers across the regions in Ghana with our SME support facilities. We have brought relief and smiles to the faces of families with our employee personal loans. With our cutting-edge technology and digital support, we take the burden of complex thinking off you, making life simple. That is who we are, as close as a partner. Bank of Africa. We are indeed the African bank with the global reach.
In a world where everything is connected, your business's security is only as strong as its weakest link. The growing threat of cybercrime has become an unescapable reality. In 2025 alone, the projected cost of cybercrime is expected to grow to $10 trillion globally, with small-medium businesses disproportionately targeted. Cyber threats have become increasingly sophisticated, widespread, and invisible, placing unequipped organizations at risk of massive damages in a matter of seconds. Meet Virtual InfoSec Africa, Ghana's Tier 1 certified managed security service provider. Our AI-driven managed security services empower businesses with faster, smarter, and more proactive cyber protection. We don't just monitor threats, we predict, prevent, and respond 24/7. At Virtual InfoSec Africa, we deliver bold and cost-effective cybersecurity solutions tailored to your organization's size and complexity. Whether you're a startup or a national institution, our services scale with your needs. We offer 24/7 SOC monitoring, early warning threat intelligence, managed detection and response, digital forensics and incident response, and predictive analysis and threat hunting. From endpoint protection to dark web forensics, we secure every layer of your digital ecosystem. Why wait for a breach to act? Join the ranks of high institutions who trust Virtual InfoSec Africa to secure their future. Start your 3-month free trial of our early warning threat intelligence platform today. For more inquiries, contact 055-689-2086 or visit our website at www.virtualinfosecafrica.com.
What juice are you taking?
This is Koa Natural 100% cocoa fruit juice.
Can I have a glass?
Of course.
Koa Natural 100% cocoa fruit juice is not just your regular cocoa drink. This is an innovative juice made from the pulp of the cocoa fruit. Once the cocoa pod is harvested, the pulp, which would have been previously discarded, this time is set aside, and that is what is used to make your Koa Natural 100% cocoa fruit juice. Not only is Koa refreshing, the taste is incredible.
Wow.
There's no added sugar, no additives, and no preservatives. 100% cocoa fruit juice. Don't worry, you won't be left out.
Wow, this is unbelievable. I would take this anytime, any day.
Still, Misaka, and Namu was a summer brabo, and it can afford Swabrabo.
Misaka pensions, Carol.
Misaka order Sika. Misaka insurance.
Misaka loan.
Momo Fogusuri Echumaden, the Aboye Nina Yesika Hubai, Se MTN, Ana Momo Jumayeni Befrewa, or the 0244 300,000 and a Befrew. Nenumpo Orin Bitsao, one time password, and now say Upin code, ain't it? Wonso, Yawa Femudi, Nama Weni Naho, Nawunsa, and Kaumo.
So, Charlie, the deal there, I almost get her.
Syntax pipe, as tough as it can get.
You're so sorry with your back, sorry. Oh, what I'm getting you was a film. What the cat never won. We can catch him. Mitchell. Hey! Now I'm back.
Between the Capai and Cabo.
Hey, madam, pipe menu.
A Syntax pipe. Metono, Omukacham send a warden pa. Say a fee, say a foam. Yeah, the pipe we be a yannick gum.
Syntax pipe.
Why, Eliki?
Come, madam. From today, Syntax pipe in my pipe. No 2 ways.
When you know, pipe Ben Abe Yusu.
SINTEX pipe.
Syntax pipe.
In the carry water. No, hala.
Going to the library. Going to the library.
Okay. I'm going for my graduation. Go well.
Education changes stories, and being part of these stories is the real passion for us. MTN.
Smile, Look lively, okay? Smile. Is the money too small? A bad stomach ruins your day. Don't let it. Take Gastron, your most effective antacid, for the relief of symptoms of peptic ulcer, heartburn, gas pain, flatulence, and indigestion.
Hey guys, what are you waiting for? Let's go.
Mwah. Can you bring down the smiles more? Gastron, effective relief from stomach discomfort. Manufactured and distributed by NS Chemist Limited. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Excellent furnishing in a real estate business is a great deal for survival. My struggles as a young estate developer were cut short when I discovered Fernart Ghana. With quality furniture made from the finest woods and amazing after-sale service, Fernart Ghana changed my story with every single home I built. It's a one-stop shop that serves the interests of clients with a variety of living room and dining sets, solid wood kitchen installations, wardrobes, doors, cabinets, beds, pergolas, floor parquets, and many other wooden products that will last a lifetime. With Fernart Ghana, all clients are offered the opportunity to customize furniture to their specifications, and the smile on their faces says it all. Thanks to Fernart, now your home can look beautiful with furniture that would last for generations. Visit Fernart Ghana today and share my story. Locate us at Yaniba Estate, Osu, Accra, or call 0303 966085 or 055 278 4097. Think wood, think Fernart.
Strong and refined, the skincare you deserve. Dream.
At Drive EVGH, we keep one goal in front of us: make electric mobility truly work for Ghana. Our lineup is built with intention. We offer electric vehicles that perform, endure, and fit real lifestyles. Whether it is a compact city EV, a practical everyday model, or a premium electric SUV with power and comfort, our range gives drivers clear options without the confusion. Every vehicle is thoroughly inspected and prepared to deliver value from day one. Our EV Service Center supports all electric vehicle brands with diagnostics, battery care, and general servicing. It is expert support designed to keep every driver moving. With XCharge EV, our expanding charging network at key locations across the country, making every journey predictable and reassuring. Drive EVGH, the standard for electric mobility in Ghana.
In Ghana, our gold is more than a resource. It's our pride. And at Gold Ball Jewelry, we celebrate that pride every day with craftsmanship that reflects who we are as Ghanaians. Introducing the Gold Ball Jewelry Gold Tablet. Pure, certified, proudly Ghanaian gold. The best part, when you buy a Gold Ball Jewelry tablet, you own it. You keep your gold with you, not with us. It's more than a jewelry. It's a smart investment for every Ghanaian who wants to secure their future. Gold Ball Jewelry Gold Tablet. Own your gold. Own your future.
You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And thanks for the messages that are coming in so far, including the very tough and thought-provoking questions that are already coming in. I would like first to read a recommendation that is coming in from Jonathan. He says the recommendations from the CRC is our second independence. It will change the way we do politics forever and truly position the country for development. Media must form a strong coalition behind it and get the whole country behind it. I think the media should avoid talking to those who have nothing useful to contribute to this process. If we can get together on this, we are setting to put the country back on the path of development. The show is brought to you by the candid sponsorship of Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner, MTN. Everywhere you go, Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneur leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 33 plus years. My Way Insurance, dial *165# on MTN to join My Way today's Syntax stance. It's strong, it's tough. Activa International Insurance, our clients, our passion. International Facilities Management Association. They are proud to be associated with Newsfile, your most authoritative news analysis platform. Safari Valley Eco Park, that's the place you should be these holidays. bringing you closer to nature. Gold board jewelry, pure, precious, proudly Ghanaian, and Koa natural juice, 100% cocoa fruit juice. Thank you very much. So you've already met the chairperson of the Constitution Review Committee, the chairman, Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh. You've also met Charlotte Osei, who is a member of the committee, and they've been helping us with the process question. We've been trying to understand the process and the outcome. And I'm happy that my guests who are joining us are saying they are excited the way we began the whole program. Tell you something. It's like a joke, but serious. When the report was presented, I heard a media house call, a lawyer of significance. And they asked the man a question. What do you make of the report that has been submitted? He says, oh, they just submitted it. I'm yet to see, to read. Then he began criticizing the report. He began criticizing the report he hadn't seen. And my other guests, as I introduced to you earlier, Victoria Bright, international corporate lawyer and entrepreneur, Oliver Bakavomo, constitutional rights and policy strategy advisor, Democracy Hub, Professor Bafwa Jumendua is former UN senior governance advisor, Yunus Afuseni is former MP Tamale Central and former minister for lands and natural resources, Nana Ejay Bafwewa is vice chair, subsidiary legislation committee, and member of the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament. Now, the process, call it, are they the owners? I'm not too sure, but those who have driven the process are still here. And for the first hour, what we are going to do is to give our guests the opportunity to raise their most consequential issues and give them the opportunity to explain if they have to explain to them. So maybe I'll begin with Yunus Afuseni. In this process, what are the most important for you? What are most important for you of the issues that have been brought, that have come up, and what is it that you would like to hear from the chair or a member of the committee?
Samson, thank you so very much. I came in late. I thought I would give you the opportunity to but be as it may, let me comment the committee. I had the opportunity to appear before them. The seriousness with which they approached the tax given them, the fact that they were accommodating, even if we spoke nonsense, they pretended to be interested in our and then they have produced a report that is very novel and far-reaching. Might have very important consequences for our democracy. Looks like it's trying to transfer power directly to the people or manifest the people's power at the grassroots. Almost everything we have seen before. I mean, even though I'm not persuaded by 2 or 3 things, but almost everything that is contained in the report we have seen before. You remember on this platform, 3 of us presented our case for constitutional review. And if you go and look at my paper, my case for constitutional review, most of the things contained in the report are in it. Now, so there's somehow some broad consensus that we need, and like you took the inspiration from the first attempt at constitutional review to move our constitution from a political constitution to a development constitution.
That was a Fiajo report. So they say they are transforming Ghana and from an electoral democracy to developmental democracy.
And so to be able to do that, you need to tweak certain processes, certain institutions. I mean, to get to that. I always say that the promise in our constitution, and particularly the directive principle, no, not directive, the preamble of the constitution, the promise of equality of opportunity, can never be delivered. if the institutions that have been created to support the delivery of that promise are weak and not fit for purpose. And I see what they're trying to do is to make those institutions responsible and accountable. I mean, that will require that we, the people of Ghana, become good citizens, invest in the process, contribute to making it a reality so that we can live under the benefit and promise of the Constitution. It's very important. And again, let me say that when I read that the MPP had formed a committee to look at the recommendations, I was encouraged. Because again, you are seeing that it appears to me that what we had always hoped for is coming to pass. That we have a bipartisan consensus on what should be done to our Constitution. Because, you know, that was what afflicted Chief Mensa Bonsu's Constitutional Review Consultative Committee. We had told him that the driver of a constitutional review exercise should be the executive. But under Nana Akufo-Addo, it appeared that he was patently uninterested in the process. Of course, I mean, and he manifested his position in his last State of the Nation address, also when he said that we should hasten slowly on the review of the Constitution. And so, even though Clara...
But Chief Mensa was serving at the pleasure of Akufo-Addo. And eventually when the report was done, and I know because you were part of it from beginning to end through to the consultations in Parliament and to going out of Accra, you were part of the process. And on the day of the presentation, he still did not hide his reservations about this attempt at a holistic, review, like change the whole Constitution. But he took the report and then he submitted it to President Mahama and said, this is work to be done. So he ought to be commended for that.
Yes. I'm not commending for that. But you didn't show, he was not overly enthusiastic in that whole exercise. And that was our problem. I mean, you were there too. That was our problem.
That's correct.
Baka, you were there. That was our problem. So we were always battling. I remember Baka saying that the Supreme Court decisions will guide our approach to this exercise and that it is within the preserve of Parliament to do those changes. This was the debate.
So this committee has partly answered that question, even though it was driven by the executive. And the Supreme Court has confirmed in the suit Professor Azar took against the Fiajo report that the executive can initiate it. They still said, even though we've been given this job and we can call a conference and go ahead with it, we want legitimacy. So they still went across the country and brought all who needed to be heard on the matter.
When I was listening to Prof and Charlotte, and I said, "Oh, that was a very good interpretation of your instrument of appointment." That look, when you said engage stakeholders, who are the stakeholders, the people of Ghana, and so you needed to be added them with your appointors. When you went back and told them, "Look, this exercise will entail consulting with the people of Ghana." And you were given the go-ahead. I mean, that was a brilliant one and a smart one. Yes, but I have reservations. The first reservation I have, I'm not entirely convinced that we need to extend the term of the presidency. Now, and it's not new. Your suggestion, recommendation is not new. The first time it made it into our national discourse was on the 5th day of January 2009, when His Excellency John Agyekum Kufuor delivered his final State of the Nation address to Parliament. He cited Singapore and Malaysia. He said because of the long stay, the duration of governance, that's why probably that catalyzed the growth of and development of their countries. And he also, in informal discussions during the Constitution Review Consultative Committee, said that it takes about a year to form a government to settle. And then in the last year of your tenure or 4-year tenure, you have to go campaign, especially if you are due for re-election. And so effectively you have 2 years. And he felt that 2 years is not just enough to develop a country and put in place all your policies. I said, well, that's a good explanation. But why don't we inject efficiency into the way we govern?
Get a lot more practical with us, because we're hearing people who are saying they are not for an extension from 4 to 5 years. Dr. Nyaho Tamakolo just issued a statement joining, those who are against the 5 years. I want to hear why not 5 years. We know the reasons for the 5 years. So why not?
Because we can do it more efficiently. And why 5 years?
You have just given the reasons. Kufuor gave those reasons.
No,
they haven't changed.
Kufuor gave those reasons, but we have also known, and the Constitution Review Committee also gave reasons. I mean, emerging norm, emerging global norm, and
that's right.
And then probably took inspiration from Kenya and maybe South Africa. But where do we have to go? I think 4 years is enough to hold our people and our elected representatives accountable. And John Dramani Mahama has demonstrated that. Clearly, in this term of his presidency, he's shown that you can set up your government in less than 3 months. You can do that and get the government running. In fact, he's also shown that you can achieve significant success in your first year in government. So that goes to dispel what President Kufuor said in 2009.
Your people are already undercutting him, trying to shoot ahead of themselves to, who will become the next president or flag bearer of the NDC.
The Constitution Review Committee has put it beyond doubt that he is not going to be a beneficiary of the process.
No, I'm talking about the question of getting to a point of rendering him a lame duck, and then everybody is trying to do something, so you barely have time to govern. Well, the people you are going to use.
Kufuor showed that if you don't want to be a lame duck, you wouldn't be. When he sacked all those who were campaigning to succeed him, he sacked them. So His Excellency John Dramani Mahama must take a leave.
Okay. All right. So we take note of that concern of yours about the extension from 4 to 5 years presidential term. Professor Bafo Adjumandua, you have maybe first a commendation or criticism before you raise one point that you want them to speak to. They will speak to those before they leave.
Overall, I think this is a very progressive step towards redefining our democratic country.
I'm not tired of it. We are always doing it, but we are never...
No, there's a difference here, Samson. This third committee, the Prempeh Committee, I think they've shown a real difference between themselves and the previous bodies. And also the level of commitment I see in this process by the executive, by the president, if I should be specific, is different. The level of commitment is different. In fact, when they submitted their report, and he did admit that they had gone previously to brief him, but so he came there knowing exactly what the recommendations are. He did not raise any objection to anything. All he said was that we are going to send this to the implementation committee. He didn't mention white paper as we used to know in the past. And he did not raise any objection to any of the recommendations. So that impressed me that at least he is personally committed. And he did say, this is what Ghanaians say they want, you see. And putting the whole thing on the laps of Ghanaians, for me, was very impressive. And that's why I see this as a difference. I know, I'm aware of the many reactions, which is good, because the whole idea for this committee and others is for Ghanaians to participate and contribute to its strength. So what they have proposed are certainly not final. It's going to go through the mail of public criticisms and other kinds of things before we come to the final conclusion. But so far, I think reaction generally has been good. But I know of specific cases where people are not happy, like my good friend Inusa said about the 5-year thing. And You know, first of all, there's no magic about the duration of office. There's no magic. Every country, every democratic country chooses the period that they think suits their context. So let's be aware of that. It's not what the Americans do that we should do. After all, Great Britain has no limitation. You can be prime minister for 20 years, so far as people want you to be there.
You can be there for a year.
Oh yes, as we saw, exactly, as we saw in the rest of
or even less than a year.
Three, less than that.
2 months.
Exactly. Right. That is that. And those who are 4 years and they are tied down. And
so what? Are we going to bury our heads in the sand like the ostrich and say there was never a problem when actually it had been identified as a problem because of the unbridled campaign periods that presidents and executives, governments were subjected to?
You see, if you take the proposal for the 5 years in isolation, then you're going to have a lot of problems. Yeah. But if you take in the larger context of the recommendations, where the fear I've read recently of you're extending the corruption, you're extending 1 year of all kinds of negativities. But they forget that within the larger context, they have also proposed, made some proposals that will delimit the power of the president.
Correct.
Because it's the power of appointments that tend to create these issues that we're talking about. So,
including the Independent Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission,
all these are
which will become the bigger OSP.
Yes.
So if you are stealing, you'll be in trouble.
Yes.
And again, they are taking away the president's, long immunity from civil action, and also extending the period within which you can take them on criminally once they leave office.
Right. So by so doing, they have placed the president in a different kind of context. That now there are other mechanisms to check your behavior, as well as the kinds of policies you want to initiate. So I think if you take in that context, there should be worry about the 5 years, because there are mechanisms to check excesses. The only thing I didn't see is perhaps a way to even recall a president who misbehaves badly, like some Americans have found themselves in today, So I think overall, I'm happy with the process. Of course, I personally, I didn't like the idea of reducing the age from 40 to 30, because I think at 30 years we don't have enough maturity. Pardon me for those who think I'm wrong, but I think if you take the Ghanaian context into account, for instance, you finish school, some do finish school very early, but most Ghanaians from the villages as I come from, by the time you finish your first degree, you are almost 27, 28. And even if by then you have finished your master's, what experience do you have? What exposure have you had to run the country? Run the country is not running Nook's organization.
So that's the difficulty about the democracy, right?
That's right.
Because as we speak, I have received statements from among those who were championing this particular proposal, reduction in the year, to be able to contest.
Yeah.
The youth groups, they are excited.
Yeah.
That's at least now, from 30, they can be thinking about becoming president.
And I think they have every right to be excited. They have to be excited. But know what I know, and at my age, I know that 30 years simply you haven't attained the age of maturity to run a nation. That's what I'm talking about.
So let the people determine that you are 30, you are too young, you are inexperienced, we don't want you.
At least people like you and I are around providing some kind of guidance. Because if democracy was to let people have what they want, we are going to be in a chaos. We are going to have a chaotic situation, society. So there's always the need for people like you and I to provide the kind of guidance that will be needed to make sure, even if a majority of people are opposed to it, there's a certain wisdom that should help us to know.
They have asked questions. If I can be in parliament at 30, why can't I be president at 30? After all, the qualification to be president, part of it is that I'm qualified to be an MP.
Good question, Samson. But you see, parliament, you are elected by your constituents, maybe 15,000 people, where there's no real scrutiny of your character or your experience or anything. Being a parliamentarian is not the same as being a president of a sovereign nation. International relations today, the changes that are occurring, what is the extent of your understanding in order to take this country to deal with the global context? So there's more to it. That's one area that I personally don't.
So 2 issues now almost around the same thing bit. I want to take one more and then we'll take your comments quickly around it. But the rest of my guests who just joined us at 9 will be with us until the show is over. And I'm thinking, are they in this dilemma, Charlotte and Kwesi? Are they thinking, so what did you want us to do? That people are making, proposals, and we find that one proposal is popular. You're saying that we should take it out? Is that what they were appointed to do? So, Nana, I've been looking through the pictures, and I see you there. Were you the one leading your team there?
No, I had the opportunity on invitation by to go and give some insight when they were reviewing, when they were treating the judiciary.
Right.
The theme that borders on the judiciary. Okay. And then subsequently, I was also part of our team, our caucus, the team our caucus selected, to also engage them. I must put it on record, our caucus, our party has since put together a committee, which I'm also part.
Inusa mentioned that.
Yeah. And whatever I'm going to say here is not, representational of what the committee is doing. It's my personal view. It may be moderated subsequently by engagement at that level. So I wanted to put it on record.
That's fair.
Even before the MPP came to office, I'd spoken to Prof, if Prof recalls, I thought that there was a need for constitutional review. But I'm a bit conservative, and my views are quite moderated, if I would say by experience and some interactions that I've had in the system. I am of the personal view that a constitution is a legal framework which must be grown through judicial interpretation and legislation. And amendment should be sparingly done. And so if there's going to be an amendment, it must have been occasioned by a major event. And indeed, when you look at Professor Fiaju's report, he makes mention of that. He acknowledges it and says that the invitation that had been given to them to undertake their exercise shows the extent of maturity that we have achieved as a country, more of a housekeeping exercise. And so, yes, I am of that school of thought. I'm open, however, to accept where there is a compelling argument that beyond our experiences in the last 30 years, there's some provision of the Constitution that must be touched. And, that must be very compelling. For one reason, this is the longest constitution, 7 constitution we have had. It has survived about 4 transitions. And so, as the Americans would say, if it hasn't broken, you don't fix it. And so, whatever we intend to fix must have been broken. Whatever we intend to fix, there must be a compelling evidence that as we go forward as a country, we are likely to have a problem. Look, the Americans have had their constitution since 1779. It was, put together in 1777, promulgated, ratified 1778. The British have had an unwritten constitution that they've practiced for several years, right? Until Magna Carta, there hadn't been a major event necessitating reforms. Subsequently, we have seen certain reforms. For instance, the British now has a Supreme Court, right? Contrary to what prevailed historically when they used to have the House of Lords, okay? Subsequently, there has been the Constitutional Reform Act, yes, that has also now brought together the entirety of the realm under one Supreme Court, right, chaired by a president, unlike here where you have a Chief Justice that presides over the entirety of the judiciary. And you see that anytime there is the need for a constitutional intervention, it should be a major event. that really shows how sacred the Constitution is, so that nobody can just tamper with the Constitution. And so that for me is very key. When I look at Professor Prempe's commission, and I need to commend them, they've done a very good job. I appeared before them, sitting through the process, watching them listen to everybody, trying to make sense about, of what everyone is saying is very difficult. And so it's a very huge public service they've delivered, and they deserve the commendation. The challenge is that what they have out, unlike the Professor Fiajo Committee's report, doesn't have the contextual information background. And so you don't know what informed a particular proposition as compared to Professor Fiajo. And so it becomes very difficult. And that for me is very, very important, because when you look at, for instance, Section 10 of the Interpretation Act, that informs interpretation of the Constitution. And that is why historical perspective or events informing a constitutional reform is very important, so that there is that sentimental attachment, right? And so that for me is key. And we hope to see that. Once we see that, I believe that we'll be able to have more informed discussion than we are having now. But what we have now is very difficult to have that informed discussion. What we have now, to be able to give an informed analysis of it, you have to do a comparative analysis between what they have given us and the Professor Fiajo Committee's report and raise questions. For instance, when you look at the Professor Fiajo Commission's report on the age, on the tenure of the president, they did a historical analysis of where the 4 years came from. The fact that the Consultative Assembly preferred 5 years, but the powers of the government committee, right, wanted the Commission of Experts wanted 4 years. The powers of government committee wanted 5 years, but upon a careful evaluation, they decided on the 5 years. The fundamental question, 4 years. The fundamental question is, what mischief are we seeking to cure with that extension or proposed extension? The mischief, for me, very respectfully, I got that from Professor Prempe's engagement with Kweku Asante, which is about giving the president sufficient time to finish with his work. Brilliant. But we have to appreciate practically that no president will be able to finish almost everything he finishes. He constants. And so the issue really has to do with continuity. And so we have to pass a law to ensure continuity and not rather extend the president's term. Because the president will take loans, he will not be able to finish the loans he takes before he leaves office. He will start projects. The project's lifespan will exceed his tenure. He will pass laws. The laws will exceed his tenure. He might not be able to implement them. And so realistically, adding 1 more year will not enable the president to finish everything he starts. And so it is an issue of continuity. That has been the debate. Successive presidents not being able to finish projects that their predecessors started. I think that we should look at how best we are going to do it. Professor Prempe's committee did something that for me was very, very brilliant. You see, when you look at Professor Fiajo's committee's report, it talked about strengthening the National Development Planning Committee. Professor Prempe's committee takes it further by saying that every bill that comes to Parliament must show how it ties into the National Development Planning Committee. It is like what we say in civil litigation, the overriding guidance. That for me is very important, because that way Parliament will now have the opportunity to assess whether what is being brought before it ties into a national development project. And so that would then render the 5-year or the extension by 1 year redundant. It makes it unnecessary, because then whatever the president has started, somebody will take it from there and complete it. I believe that we must, because the Constitution is a legal framework that is capable of growth, as Justice Sowa said in to4 versus Attorney General, we must explore how to grow the Constitution through legislation and through judicial interpretation.
Right.
That calls for a stronger intellectual-based judiciary. If you compare, if you are going to be very honest with ourselves, if we compare the pre-2000 judiciary to what we have today, and sometimes we all say it in our closet, it's not the same. Why is it not the same? It's not the same because of the mode of appointment. The mode of appointment has resulted in patronage. When I look at Professor Prempeh Committee's report, it looks like they want to work on the mode of appointment, but I don't think that it is informed by practical experience on the ground. Why do I say so? They hand it over primarily to the Judicial Council without, and I stand to be corrected, I've gone through your report, I don't see much work being done on the current Judicial Council. It looks as though it's been left the way it is. I can understand why they did that, because you see, when you look at Professor Fiaju's committee's report, when they presented it to the president and proposed tinkering with the current composition of the Judicial Council, the white paper rejected it. And so I can understand where they are coming from. But if you don't tinker with the current Judicial Council, it is much ado about nothing. It is as though you have handed over the judiciary to itself and the executive, right? But the compromise of the judicial independence of this country is internal and external. You have somebody sitting at the Supreme Court speaking to somebody at the High Court. You have somebody sitting at the presidency speaking to a judge. You see, when you have a Judicial Council that will now decide on appointments to the High Court, decide on the appointments to the Court of Appeal, and decide on the appointments of the Supreme Court, and you have a senior member sitting on the Judicial Committee and telling you, a High Court judge, what to do for him, you will do it. Because you know that your promotion is in his hands, just as the executive. And so that portion of the commission's proposal, very respectfully, sends us back, in fact, but let me wrap up. When you look at the Commonwealth, when you look at what is evolving in the common law jurisdiction, take Canada, take even the United Kingdom, right? They set up a search committee, which is the equivalent of what the University Council does when they are looking for a vice chancellor. They set up in Kenya, Prof's favorite jurisdiction. They set up a search committee, and that search committee will interview applicants, scrutinize them, and decide who is fitting for the job. And so that current proposal doesn't solve the problem we face.
Right. Thank you very much. So three preliminary submissions going for the jugular. And so I'd like you, Prof. and Charlotte, to begin with the Ejebafor's concerns. Sure. The first concern is that Fiajo gave us 1,000 pages of a report. You have just given us 128. Why? You don't explain the things you have done. You just give us actionable recommendations.
So our report is in two parts. So this is part one, right? Part one is the abridged version, basically summarizing the key recommendations. Our second and long-form report, so to speak, is due at the end of the holidays. January 5th is when we submit it. That report will have the context, the analysis, everything that puts the recommendation in perspective, right? So you take a recommendation, before you get to it, you would know exactly our thinking that led us to the recommendation. So all of that is there. We're still working to complete that fuller report for submission after the new year. So Bafo is right. I mean, some of the recommendations here appear to be out of context, and until and unless you have that context, you may not really understand fully why we got there or how we got there.
Before he got there, he had mentioned something. Even though it sounded a bit contradictory, to the point he made about approaching you even before the NPP came into office.
Sure.
That there will be the need for constitution review. His view is that constitution review anywhere must only happen because there is a major development.
Sure.
We are in peacetime. We have no problems.
Yeah, no, I think
like where you went to help to make a constitution in Yemen, they had problems. In Kenya, 2017, they had come out of slashing each other. So what's our problem?
And maybe this is what. So ours is more or less preventative constitutional change.
It ain't broken. You don't fix what is not broken.
But you can anticipate. If you can anticipate that it's broken. I mean, it is broken in many ways, right? We are still working it. It's probably wobbly. It's still, moving, but it's broken somewhat.
He says, work it through interpretation
until it collapses. It's like you don't service your vehicle until it collapses and leaves you on the road, right? We are servicing the Constitution while it's still moving, so that we avoid the collapse, right? We don't want to get to the crisis point where now, the thing is collapsed and then you are trying to revive it. But also in terms of longevity, the average constitution gets changed almost every 19 to 20 years globally, right? Ours is 32, right? And so I think it's long enough. This a whole generation has passed since. Correct. Like I mentioned in the first half of the show, when the Fiajo report was submitted, the youth cohort, we call them the millennials. Now we call them the Gen Z, a whole different generation has sprung up since that period. And I mentioned all of the intervening developments that have happened in Ghana's political and constitutional history that are significant and we must take on board.
We had not had election petitions. We have had two of them.
Parliament, a number of things.
We have not had too many of removals of. We have not had a removal of a CJ.
Article 1.
We have done it
exactly. So there are lessons for constitution.
And the economy had not collapsed.
All of them.
We have not gone bankrupt. We have gone there.
This is a constitution that has a whole chapter on finance, on debt, on contracting, and it means that something is not working there. If you can have all of these provisions and still go, raise debt to a point where you go bankrupt.
It's a question of the longevity and intervening to make corrections. The reason you have provided for a certain timeline within which we should be revising the
Constitution. So we have in our Living Constitution chapter, we say, look, give every generation an opportunity for them to take a look at the Constitution. Don't wait for it to collapse. Don't wait for a crisis to hit, so that we can have this continual refreshment of the Constitution, re-engineering. Give people that opportunity. So I think I take on board Bafo's points are very, very legitimate. He raises very, very germane points, both on the process and on the substance. I think on the substance, though, on the Judicial Council, he needs to go look at it again. We in the Fuller report, he will see a different Judicial Council. But I think also that we don't leave judicial appointments to the judiciary. Not at all, actually. Not at all.
Okay.
We are very mindful. The appointments is a big part of the story, right? And he makes a very good point, Honorable President makes a very good point about the 5-year issue.
So hold on there quickly. Charles wants to make an intervention here. Right.
I understand Bafo's point. As a lawyer, I'm also very vested in the sacredness of the Constitution and not tinkering with it easily. But I think that in the peculiar case of Ghana, we have to remember the history of this Constitution, what it came out of. It came out of a military dictatorship trying to go back to constitutional democracy. And
it has been said that it was sort of an appeasement to get rolling.
So there are issues there. There are very fundamental issues right there that we've never fixed. It's been good for us as a country that it's worked. We wanted political stability out of this. It's given us that. But essentially as well...
Given us that on the back of an imperial president.
We're getting to that. But essentially, who does the Constitution belong to? The people. If we as a people decide that we want the opportunity every 5 years to look at our constitution again. We own it. That right should not be taken from us. If we say every 20 years in a time of peace is not broken, but we want to look at it again and make sure it continues to fit, that right should not be taken away from us. Doing all the engagements during this constitutional review process, two things really stuck out to me. Just the overwhelming interest from the people, not the experts, not the elites, the everyday people showing up at these engagements to say that this is my issue, I want to have my voice heard, this is what I want to see change in the Constitution. For me, that was very important because it also shows that we have accepted as a people that we want constitutional democracy. We may not be too happy with it, but we also believe that we can fix our country through constitutional change. That is important. The other thing for me was that the Afrobarometer reports have over the years shown that we are losing faith in democracy. We think democracy is failing us. We think it's a choiceless democracy. We're not happy with the way the arms of government have managed stuff. Yet, people believe that if we can show up at this forum and speak, things can change and deliver the kind of democracy we want. That, for me, is important. And I think that should be respected above every other philosophy of how we manage constitutions. Let the people be at the center of this. Let the people own it. And the duty of government is to listen to the people.
Interesting. So apart from the groundswell of, as it were, views that have been shared that there is the backsliding of democracy within Africa, not only Africa, but elsewhere. Apart from that, should that be a strong enough point to want to tweak our constitution? Before we went for Professor Fiajo, we had the Africa Review peer review mechanism, and President Kufuor committed to it. That eventually culminated in President Mills saying this is the time to do it. Is that enough? That's not localized the backsliding of democracy across. Is that enough reason we should be tweaking the constitution?
It's not localized, but we are a leading light in Africa. And in fact, many have commended us that without a crisis, we have sat down to say, what do we want to see in our constitution? And we have to remain a leading light. The fact that democracy is backsliding, Ghana should show a better example. And I think that's exactly what we're doing. We're sitting here on a Saturday morning discussing our constitution. Different views. What is more beautiful than this?
About Christmas season.
Okay.
I'm telling you, this is the essence of it.
Let me go back to Prof. He is coming to you and Professor Bafo Adjumani's questions.
No, just a minute. It's important for me to add that the clamor for a review of the Constitution did not start with the Constitution Review Committee.
No.
It started in 2008. And that was why President Kufuor, in his State of the Nation address, indicated the need for a constitutional review. In fact, in 2008, constitutional review was on the ballot. It was on the ballot. So yes, when you look at evolution of constitutions in some jurisdictions, they come after a major, even in our country, we've had 3-4 constitutions after major events, or 5 if you add a changeover from the...
We don't want that event.
Okay,
so Prof, before you go to the extension of the tenure and the change in the age, reduction in the age, senior citizen Dr. Jesse wants to know, did you receive memos? We know Fiajo received a lot of memos, Clara's committee, they received a lot of memos and so on. Did you receive memos?
Oh, yeah. Quite a number. I mean, what? 600?
About 758 submissions.
Yeah. I mean, less than 1,000, but we received substantial memos from institutions, organizations, from even Jubilee, right? I mean, when Jubilee House wanted to, or a part of it, I think the anti-corruption group there, they sent a memo to us. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs sent a memo. NACOP sent a memo. So some government institutions dealt with us through memos.
The security agents.
And so we received memos from individuals, from private institutions and organizations, and from even government. Yeah.
Private business.
Absolutely. So it wasn't just oral engagement. No, we received a bunch of very solid members.
I know a couple of them who are already complaining that their views didn't find expression. And I know others too who are celebrating that their views found expression, including the youth groups. They've actually shared their memo they brought to you with me, and they are very happy that you gave them 30 years. So tell us, why extend the term and why reduce the age?
If with your permission, let me just chip in one point about this response to the global dynamics on backsliding. And you say, well, it's not localized. In part it is, right? When you have an inauguration for your president, right, after a democratic election, at which one of your neighbors is invited, who has overthrown, who has come to power through a coup d'etat, and that neighbor of yours gets the loudest applause from the crowd, you have to sit up and pay attention.
Ibrahim Traore.
Right?
Yeah.
So, indeed, I mean, what is happening in our immediate environment is very germane to this process. So when we recount the development that have happened that affect our thinking around constitutional review, we mention that as one of the important events. This resurgence of coups d'etat is something Ghana needs to pay attention to. Because if you listen to the youth chatter around this matter, they are echoing some of these sentiments. They are losing hope and pointing to these other countries. So the democratic backsliding is not just something external to this place. Afrobarometer is telling us that Ghanaians like democracy, but they are dissatisfied with its outcomes. So that is also evidence we need to pick up before, again, we get to a collapse or a crisis. So I think being preventative is good.
So quick to the extension and reduction in the age.
Yes, so the reduction in the age, there's a bit of history, right? In 1960, in the 60 Constitution, the age for president minimum was 35. In 1969, and this is an important difference, we had a ceremonial president. I think the age was 40 or higher. But real power was with the executive. It was with the prime minister and the cabinet. And to get into cabinet, you had to come from parliament. That age was 21. Right? The minimum age at the time was 21. So really, the governing power, those who held governing power, we set the minimum age for them at 21.
In Ghana, a constitution in Ghana's history.
Absolutely, in 69. Okay. So when President Kufuor became a deputy minister, he was 20-something, right? Not even 30, because his constitution allowed him to get to parliament at 21, and from parliament he could be picked to become a cabinet minister, and he could have become prime minister too. Buzia could have been 22. We allowed it, right? So that is where real power resided. Then now you take on board the demographic changes that have happened. We have a much more youthful population. So it's important also, the Constitution has other values, signaling effects, signaling values. You need to signal to the population that, look, you matter.
Country belongs.
We are not just saying that, well, yeah, maybe Ghanaians will decide that after 20, after 21 or 30, we are not going to vote for you as president. But let it
and you
be
can
by
run
Ghanaians.
Okay. Next to 5 years.
Really, we are just telling the youth, you matter. This is your constitution. This is your democracy. And if you have the right preparation in your life and you aim for it, you can also be, like this. And in many more advanced countries, they are choosing much, much younger people. Much, much younger people as prime ministers, as presidents, globally. Then so it's not a big deal, that the age 30 is not such a big deal at all. If in 60 we were
the concern,
35.
even in our royal homes, we know that you can be a chief at age 1. But you would have been groomed.
Yeah, but you can be a chief. If at 30, nobody will groom you.
Maybe we should start grooming.
Right? At 30, if you were made a paramount chief at 30, nobody's going to groom you. 30 is plenty, even in our traditional systems, right? I don't think there's anybody at 30 who is there as a regent and you have somebody groom you. 30 is pretty
Right. So the extension to 5 years, which is also...
The 5 years point, okay. So we did address, so I think the efficiency argument is strong, right? Indeed, those who have run the Constitution, when you probe them on the number of years, it's definitely an argument about we don't have enough time, right? We don't have enough time to complete our agenda in 4 years because we spend X number of months on the front end doing this, and on the back end, we spend X number of months doing campaigning. So we address both issues on the front end and the back end. We said, okay, when you get into office, one of the things that tend to burden you as president is all these appointments you must make, right? Many of them, you don't even know these people. You are just saddled with a burden of appointments.
That's right.
Let us relieve you of some of that burden.
Have you confirmed? We understand it's in the region of about 4,000 to 6,000 people that the president appoints.
And we keep anytime you create a new body, you pass a new statute, you are actually extending that. So it doesn't stop. It's growing.
But you have cut that burden. So why do you still want to give them more years?
So I'm coming to that. So we've cut it on the front end, and we're saying that at the back end, there's a campaign season we are now putting there. So all of it to save you time, right? So that you can really govern. And we've made certain reforms.
The reason you shouldn't extend it, they are nodding. Those who have concerns are nodding.
Let me give him some information quickly. Something. You see, we diagnose the problems wrongly. You have political parties who, for 4 years, don't discuss policies internally. Dr. Tonyedu said that the NDC goes to Congress and they never discuss policy. When do we produce our manifesto? Election year. Sure. It is wrong. You must be ready to lead. You must be ready to govern.
But that's not
as a political problem. No, I'm saying that. So you don't cure that with a constitutional amendment. The problem is that we are not ready to govern. You sit in opposition for 4 years. You are criticizing the government. What are you ready to do differently? You wait till election year, about 3-4 months to the elections before you produce your manifesto.
Right.
That is a problem.
Thank you.
Look, the youth, they were hailing Tuari, not because of the archaicness of our constitution, because Tuari stands for action. They see that Tuari is fighting corruption or something. So the youth, they want jobs, they want corruption fought. That is it. It's not because of the constitution.
Yes. As for Tuare, we can look at the substance and it will reveal a different picture.
I'm not sure the point Balfour is making, right? Balfour's point, look, we have for many years lambasted this constitution for being a constitution made for one man, which one man, everybody knows, was a reference to Rawlins. I find it quite interesting that somehow we claim that this constitution was made for Rawlins. And yet when you want to tinker with it, those probably who were also loudest in making the claim seem to now like the constitution and are hugging it. It's like, hey, don't touch my constitution. It's working for me. You know?
That's what I'm saying. No, not you. That is what I'm saying.
That's fine.
So I think that the genealogy of the constitution is important, which is why I think that, the point Charlotte was making, let's look at how we came by this constitution. And yes, we have lived with it. We have tolerated it. We are very Ghanaian about it. We've really tolerated it for a very long time. But 32 years, I think, is long enough for us to say, look, all of you guys who think it was made for this one man, whilst one man is not there, let's sit back and look at it.
We're at extension from 4 to 5 years.
Yes.
And your own things you have fixed in the constitution, in the proposals now, appear to defeat the need for an extra year.
They enhance.
If he's appointing 7,000 people, and you are saying we want to appoint far less.
And have more time to govern.
If he needs time for campaign, you are saying we are going to have an off-campaign season. So why do you still want him to do 5 years?
So you see, we have to take on two perspectives here. The voter's perspective is important, right? But also, we are talking about governing, right? A constitution is also a governing document. So the perspective of those who govern us is just as legitimate, right? So in this discourse, in this conversation around the constitution, we sampled all of those views. And so the view from the inside is as valid, right? If they're telling us this is how power works, this is how it doesn't work, we take it on board. It's not that we accept it.
Okay, so now let me get two other.
No, but I think that the other thing about the 5 years is that it's important because numbers are always going to be arbitrary, right? It's important to be guided also by what is the comparative best practice in an area.
Right.
So the fact that our peer nations in this global community are largely moving towards 5 for something that is arbitrary. We have 4 because America has 4.
That's right.
And we chose, we don't, the 4 is not magic. Really, right. There's no magic to 4. We have 4 because the leading democracy at the time we thought had 4, so everybody follows. But even that, many are moving away from that, right? So if 5 is emerging as the mean or the median or whatever average that is, and we say, fine, even in our region, you look at our neighborhood, Liberia has 6, Benin has 7. We in Nigeria are the only ones, with 4. Most have 5. What is wrong with that? But then the question, then people just uncritically just multiply it by 2 and say 10 years. But we're not saying that. We are saying that we believe that a president who has been given a 5-year term would be hard-pressed to argue at the end of the 5 years that have not had enough time. And that Ghanaians are probably less likely to repeat an underperforming president who has had 5 years than to repeat a 4-year one, right? Mm-hmm. It's not based on any, but there's also a little bit of political science here, right? Right. We're saying that this is not going to be automatically 5 times 2. And that 5 years, in our view, will become the reward for the president who, after the first term, has done very well.
And it may not be a fair question, but people are asking, so you are saying that we should have been saddled with Akufo-Addo for an extra.
No, that's not fair.
It will be unfair if I sit here and not protest. If I sit here and not protest.
In Liberia, right? In Liberia, they had.
Sit here and not protest.
So Liberia has 6-year term, right? Times 2 is 12. In our case, you have to do 3 terms to get to Liberia's 12. Countries vary, right? George Weah had for 6 years. And then he went back and said, Charlie, another 6 years. I'm thinking they're like another George Weah for 6 years. Right? So those things really were on your mind, obviously. How much longer am I going to give this person and put up with this person for another term?
All right.
So 6, if you're giving 4, it's easy. We've gotten used to this 4 times 2 stuff. But I think it's going to be very difficult, really.
Thank you. I'm coming to Vicky Bright and Oliver. They will raise their issues, then you will now respond, and then you can take leave of us. And please, when you take leave of us, you may listen, you may not listen, because you may not like what they have to say. Charlotte wanted to say something.
I'm surprised that we propose increasing the presidential term limit to 5 years, as well as the one for the MPs. So far, I have not heard any disagreement on why MPs should not have 5 years.
Because it's tied to the president.
Not necessarily.
They can decide. The MPs like this. MPs want to go for 5.
MPs like the 5 years for themselves, but nobody wants a 5 years for the president. Is that the understanding?
A good point.
I think.
But we don't like 5.
I think in both instances it should be 4 years.
Okay.
Okay.
We should be more focused on how to ensure continuity.
But they're waiting for you.
Thank you. Yes, Vicky. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Vicky Bright. So, what do you also have to say, and what do you wish that the process doers will answer?
First of all, I want to commend the committee. Like everyone else, I think they've done a very thorough job, and it's a good job. I actually do believe that it is time for us to have another look at the Constitution. So I agree with the whole exercise that the President entrusted in their hands to undertake. When I look at the report, it is seeking to close some democracy gaps that we have in our system. And we do have some gaps. And so I'm kind of thinking that that aspect of it has been quite well done. I don't agree with everything that has been proposed. Just talking about the most recent thing that we're all discussing, the presidential term, for example, I am one of those who believe that we should keep to the 4-year term for both the MPs and the president, simply because our institutions are not yet strengthened enough to allow a president to go on for 5 years. If we had stronger institutions, if corruption was not systematic, etc., then I may have held a different view. But looking at where we are at the moment and looking at the institutions that we have and looking at how they operate and looking at the fact that there are usually little or no consequences for falling foul of our anti-corruption laws, etc., against that backdrop, I would say no. Let's stick to the 4 years.
So does it not matter that the innovations include strengthening the institutions that you are concerned about, that if they were as strong and they were as active, then you would be okay with extending? But they are extending at the same time, giving you teeth to bite. The Attorney General is going to lose some of its powers, so some prosecutions can happen, impartially, and among other things.
Samson,
perhaps maybe they should also reduce the threshold to impeach the president.
The devil is in the constitutional detail, isn't it? These are proposals. We don't yet know how they'll be implemented. Once we see how they've been implemented and once we see how they have worked in practice, then we can look at some of these things. Because look, 10 years is a whole generation. And so it's before we jump to we take that kind of quantum leap, we have to be very, very sure that we are not creating a monster we can't control. So that is where I would leave that one, I think. I'm very excited about some of the other proposals that they made. The whole thing to do with political campaign finances, for example, I think that was a gap that has been long-standing and that really needed to be addressed. And I think they've addressed it well. Because the Electoral Commission's job is so vast that is the whole focus has been on elections. And so that is one aspect that is there, beautifully laid down in statute, but has been ignored simply because of the overwhelming nature.
Like Bafo just confirmed, the parties are just election machines.
Yes.
They come to do election, go to sleep.
Yes, and then, the Democracy Fund as well, I think it's a good move. It will open up, if done properly, if implemented properly, it will open up avenues for youth and women, more women to participate in politics in this country. Looking at some of the institutions they've suggested, like the IRC and the Anti-Corruption Agency, for example. Ethics, yes, AEC.
And anti-corruption.
Yeah, some of the questions that come into my mind are, who is going to elect the membership of these institutions? Who is going to have the power to remove them once they are elected? And who is controlling their funding? Where is the money coming from?
Most important.
The most important thing, because he who pays the piper calls the tune. Because if we don't do that carefully, and we allow the executives to still infiltrate these organizations, then we are just rebranding the problem. We are not fixing the problem. So for me, as I said, I'll repeat what I just said, the devil is in the constitutional detail. So if we can do all of that and do it well, then I'm okay. And then the other thing is MPs, finally decoupling the legislature from the executive so that the three arms of government can work as a democracy is
very
supposed
soon.
to
Bafo will tell you why that.
And of course,
bad.
I'm sure most MPs will be kicking up in arms, and because who wants to lose power? I mean, power. Once you have power, you don't want to let it go. You'll fight for it. So I expect our legislative, our legislators to fight.
They even suggest that if you resign as an MP for the purpose of taking up a ministerial position, you should not. That's what they say. Yeah. Why? Yes. Why do you do that?
Yes, because...
Leave me alone. I can become an MP and then I want to become a minister. Then I step down.
But isn't that the whole thing about, okay, at that point, this is not legislated, if you want to use the word legislate, at the political party level. When SOE ministers, before the parties said, no, you can't do this, they will just be sitting there while campaigning and completely neglect their whole organization, which is a state-owned enterprise, which is critical to some aspect or the other of our nation. Yeah. And then some of the party said, no, you have to resign before you go and do it and all that. It's similar, except this is on a national scale. So in many ways, it's even worse, arguably. So I think that it's something that we've been discussing. It's something that, like many other things in this country, we swept under the carpet for a very long time. And I'm very happy that the Prempeh Committee has taken it on head on to tackle it. And I think we have to, if you want to be an MP, great. Serve your people. That's right. Focus on your constituency. Because look, this is a developing nation. There are lots of things to develop in your constituency. Some MPs come for 20 years, 5 terms, and you go to their constituencies and nothing, absolutely nothing has happened.
They've built loyalty.
That's what they invested.
They've fed people over the years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Almost every month or 3 months, they are sending Momo to the constituency.
That is it. So, I mean, and then, when we had the national health insurance, that became the sexy thing. Everybody was registering, which is great. Nice. That was what they used. And then now that that's over, it's like, what next? So I think they really ought to focus on their constituencies, maybe until we get to a point where we can call Ghana a developed country. And then, efforts can afford to be dissipated or divided. But for now, I say no.
All right. Oliver.
Everybody's been their lane.
Thank you.
And Prof and Charlotte, I need to let you know that, you've heard about the government WhatsApp? Oh, you guys are not in Ghana?
Okay, I heard.
So that 60-plus member committee working on ethics and anti-corruption action plan for the next 5 years after the 2014 one expired in 2024. There are things you have proposed that they are also celebrating. They are just happy because they too, in their processes, they have made those proposals. Okay. Campaign off-season is one of them. They've made those proposals. Party, disclosure for funding, and all of that. They've made those proposals and they are looking for legislative changes. So if the legislative changes will begin from a constitutional level, that's even all the better. Yes, Oliver.
Thank you.
You have done this before.
And perhaps let me start from that point. I think
you're fatigued.
Not even. I mean, I think that one of the things I'm most encouraged by, and I know it's still a tentative report, in many ways, is that the committee had sort of the right instincts for a constitutional advisory body like this. One, which is having the humility to kick certain things down the can. So you have to be able to recognize that you can't fix all of these things within the report that you have, and so you have to create pathways. So when it comes to decentralization, the Devolution Commission allows you to create that pathway for how you deal with that problem.
That sounds like passing the buck, doesn't it?
No, but to be democratic, you have to recognize that the institutions have to function in a way, and you give them